It is Kieran Trippier. It is delicious! Glorious! Glorious!
Walker in there too. Luke Shaw! Harry Kane wants it played into him. He chooses Grealish instead. It's Grealish! It's Kane! Nothing like this has happened for a long time. Here's the overhead kick from Dyer. Palmer finds Watkins. Watkins turns! Watkins scores!
Hello and welcome back to the Gate 102 podcast. I hope you're doing well and thank you for tuning in to today for another episode. It's great to have you with me here today. My last episode, which feels quite a while back now, that was me talking about England's 1-0 win over Austria. And that was the first warm-up friendly game for the European Championships in 2021. I think the most significant outcome of that game was that it was in fact the first time the fans were allowed back in the stadiums after COVID. So it was a special game for that reason. And today I'm moving on to the second and final tournament warm-up friendly. And this time England were once again at the Riverside Stadium, but this time playing against Romania. And again, it was a similar sort of crowd, around 7,000 to 8,000 supporters, socially distanced. So it still wasn't normality, but it was nice to have England fans once again being allowed to be cheering them on. Now, this was England's final game before the opening game of the tournament against Croatia. So it was a chance for Southgate to make sure all last-minute preparations were complete. I mean, I'm sure at this point Southgate knew what his team was for the first game, but it was still a chance for some players to impress before the tournament got underway. Now, in my last episode, I mentioned how Trent Alexander-Arnold was forced to withdraw from the squad due to an injury. So this game also carried a bit of an edge, as Southgate was due to pick the standby replacement shortly after full time. So it was a big chance for some of the standby players to make a mark for themselves, as there was a space up for grabs. So Southgate made 9 changes from the Austria win, and we actually saw quite a lot of the standby players play in this game, as Southgate was hoping to see who would make the step up. So it was a 4-2-3-1 formation, and it was quite clear at this point that that was the formation that was going to be used to start the tournament against Croatia based on these 2 games. So it's Sam Johnstone in goal, and this was actually his first England game, so a special moment for him. The back 4 was Ben Godfrey at right back, Ben White and Tyrone Mings at centre back, and Luke Shaw at left back. Now, Ben Godfrey and Ben White both made their debut against Austria, so it was both a first start for them, and both of those players were on the standby list. So whilst it was a team game, it was almost like a bit of competition between those two, of who could play the better, who could make the step up. In midfield, it was Calvin Phillips, James Ward-Prowse and Jack Grealish. Grealish was one of only 2 players to keep his place. And the front 3 was Jadon Sancho on the right, Dominic Calvert-Lewin through the middle, and Marcus Rashford on the left. And Rashford was actually named captain for the first time, so a special moment for him. So it was definitely not England's strongest team. You were missing a lot of key players, people like Pickford, Kane, Sterling, Rice, Stones, Walker. Essentially, your main core of the team was not there. So I remember people being a bit confused as to why he's not put his strongest team out with the final game before the tournament. But I think Southgate did the right thing in almost having a look at a few players who he probably needed to look at more than others. So moving on to what happened during the first half. And to be honest, the answer to that is not a lot. It was a bit of a slow and pedestrian first 45 minutes. England totally dominated possession, but just didn't create too many chances in the final third. And that's what let them down. I think it was hard because Romania was sitting very deep, playing quite a low block. So it was difficult for England to break them down. But England still created a few chances, not many, but still a few half-decent chances. The best one came around 20 minutes into the game, where Jadon Sancho cut inside from the left, had a shot which hit the top of the crossbar. It was a decent effort. Just a shame that it didn't really creep in the top corner. It was a close effort. One thing I should also mention was that there was a recurring theme in this game. And it was that Grealish constantly got fouled so many times. They just couldn't handle him. We actually had a few penalty appeals in the first half that all came from Grealish being brought down. But the referee just took no notice, and he let quite a lot go, to be honest. But he went down. But yeah, overall, the first half was a bit flat, to be honest. A few moments here and there, but overall it was similar to the Austria game, to be honest. But in the Austria game, England came out the second half playing a lot better, and this was the case here. Same in this game, England came out second half, a lot more tempo, higher intensity. There's just a bit more urgency about the way we were trying to move the ball forward and create chances. In the second half, we actually brought on Jordan Henderson at half-time, and having that leadership on the pitch, I think, helped. Yeah, the first half was a bit sluggish, but second half, bringing Henderson on, and overall the tempo England were playing at did increase significantly. Midway through the second half, around 68 minutes, Jack Grealish, who was probably England's best player of the game, he was brought down in the box, and this time the referee did point to the penalty spot, and the penalty was given. I mean, there were so many appeals throughout the game, so it was nice that at least one of them was given. But lovely play from Grealish, nice quick feet, getting away from his man, which meant he drew the foul and England had a penalty. Now, with Harry Kane being rested, it meant captain Marcus Rashford was the man to step up, and he made absolutely no mistake. A calm and composed finish into the bottom right corner, and England had finally got the breakthrough. A really nice moment for Rashford to score in his first game wearing the captain's armband. So that made it, I suppose, an extra special goal. But England were finally in the lead, and it was just nice to get that goal, because in that second half it had been coming. But it's funny because England, 10 minutes after Rashford scored, England had another penalty given. This time it was substitute Dominic Calvert-Lewin who was brought down in the penalty area. And yeah, he was absolutely clattered by their defender. A terrible foul inside the 18-yard box. So England had a chance to make it 2-0. But it's strange because Rashford, who scored the penalty 10 minutes before, he'd been taken off. So there was question marks over who would take this penalty. Now, Calvert-Lewin won the penalty, and it looked like he was originally going to take it. But after some speculation amongst the players, it was actually Jordan Henderson who was to take. Now, this was Henderson's 59th cap for his country, and he'd not scored a goal at this point. So I think he wanted to take the penalty to end that drought and finally give himself an international goal. And that's what he'd have hoped for. But the reality is he took the penalty, and it was a poor penalty. It was a good eye for the goalkeeper, and overall, not the best penalty. It was a shame because he was also the only England player to miss in the shootout against Colombia as well, so it was disappointing for him. But I think Calvert-Lewin should have taken it, to be honest, and Southgate thought the same after the game. But at the same time, I understand why Henderson wanted to take the penalty in the hope that he'd finally get his first England goal after so long. But yeah, it was just a poor penalty, to be honest. It wasn't to be. So it meant that it was only 1-0, sadly. Not any more goals for England. One thing I've got to mention was that in between the two penalties England had, goalkeeper Sam Johnstone made an outstanding save to deny Romania from equalising. Now, the opposition had hardly had a chance all game, but all of a sudden it fell to their striker, sort of deflected off one of our players. I think it was Mings, and it meant he had a free shot from inside the 6-yard box. And yeah, John Stone just the fastest reflexes to change his body and tip the shot over the bar. Such an amazing save. And if he doesn't save that, it's a totally different game and England probably don't win. And all of a sudden it's all this negativity before the tournament because England haven't beat Romania. So it was a really important save and it meant that England got the win and got the clean sheet. In terms of individual performances from this game, I think Jack Grealish was really good, just like he was against Austria as well. I think he was definitely the standout out of everyone across the two warm-up games. But throughout the game, he was causing problems to the Romanian defence. I remember after this camp, there was a lot of clamour and a real push from a lot of fans that he should start the opening game against Croatia. Obviously, that wasn't to be in the end, but it shows how much the fans were warming to Grealish as well. And it also shows how much he impressed over the course of these two games. But as mentioned before, there was a slot available because of the injury to Trent. And Southgate was asked in the post-match interview after the game, who are you taking? Who's Trent's replacement? But he refused to answer, saying he's got a good idea on who it is, but he won't reveal anything until tomorrow. Anyway, the following day, it was confirmed that Ben White had been called up to the squad as that 26th man. Now, obviously, there was a lot of uncertainty about what happened with Ben White in the tournament after this one in Qatar. But this being 18 months before all that happened, so at this point, White was probably wanting to play for England. But yeah, he had a solid season at Brighton. I think at the time it made sense. He was a defender replacing a defender. I mean, Southgate could have had a look at other options. I mean, if you look at the standby list, though, you had Jesse Lingard, but England already had an abundance of attacking options. Ollie Watkins was another standby, but you already had Kane and Calvert-Lewin and even Rashford, who could play as that number 9. James Ward-Prowse wasn't really what England needed at the time. So it almost did come down to two players, and they were two defenders, and that was between Ben Godfrey and Ben White. And over the course of the two games, Ben White was arguably the better performer. And not saying Godfrey played badly, but White probably played just a little bit better. Also, it made sense because he could play right back and centre back, both at a very high level. And he was also used to playing in a back three, which did at Brighton that season. So if England were to switch formation in the tournament, which did happen, he was a player who was a good option to play on the right of that back three. And that leads us on nicely to my next episode, which will be the final one of the calendar year, with me talking about the squad Southgate selected for the tournament. Obviously, I've talked quite a bit about it across the last two games, but I'll dedicate a full episode to the squad and I'll give my thoughts and opinions on that. And it'll be similar to the one I did for the 2018 World Cup last year. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be coming your way next week. Also, I hope you're enjoying our Advent calendar on our socials. So if you're not aware, each day over Advent, I'm posting a positive message on our socials to help spread a bit of hope and encouragement over the build up to Christmas. So please do follow us on whatever account you prefer so that you can stay tuned and you won't miss any messages coming through, and hopefully you're enjoying what you're seeing. So thank you for listening to this episode. It's always appreciated. And until next time, take care of yourselves and I'll speak to you soon.